I have filed 341 labor assignment assessments in my career. I have processed Keth-class heavy frames, Vorath-grade endurance workers, Davith load bearers rated at 4 times standard. I have never, in 341 assessments, filed a report I could not close with a simple number. The human's file did not cooperate. Name as rendered by the Transit Authority intake form was Calla Marsh, civilian, 34 years by her species calendar. Former agricultural freight coordinator, mid-tier station posting, no combat history, no augmentation record, no physical enhancement notation of any kind. She had arrived at Processing Wing 7 for standard labor assignment intake. The same intake every non-combatant detainee receives before the Accord assigns them to a work tier. It is a 40-minute procedure. I had cleared my morning schedule, expecting to have it done in 30. She was not large. I want to be precise about this, because precision is all I have left. She was of medium height for her species, moderate build, the civilian frame you would expect from a person, Perks, who had spent 12 years managing cargo logistics from a console. She had arrived in a gray transit suit, slightly rumpled, with a small duffel bag she had been told twice she could not bring into the assessment room in which she had sat down without complaint. The first calibration block was standard issue, a sealed resin cube, 460 Davith weight units, used across all Accord processing facilities as the baseline lower threshold. Below that weight, we do not assign labor grades at all. The subject is classified non-load capable and routed to clerical processing. It is the bottom of the scale. I have never had a subject under that number. The cube is there as a formality, a procedural floor, not a challenge. I gestured toward the block on the platform. I told her to lift it, hold it for a 5 count, and set it down. She said, "This one?" I said yes. She bent down, wrapped both hands around the lower grip rail, and lifted it. No preparation, no bracing of the legs, no repositioning of the feet. Drawn breath. She simply stood up with it, held it at waist height, counted to 5 aloud. She actually counted aloud, the way a student would, and set it back down. I logged the result and moved to the second block. The second block is Tier 3 rated, 820 Davith weight units. Standard assignment ceiling for light manufacturing, maintenance corridors, and non-structural cargo handling. It is the weight a mid-grade Keth frame worker carries on a normal shift. Not a challenge for a trained laborer. Not something a civilian freight coordinator with no augmentation record should handle without visible effort. I told her to lift it. She said, "Same way?" I said yes. Same way. She did it the same way. Both hands, stood upright, held it. Her breathing did not change. She looked at the block, and then at me, and then at the block, again with the expression of someone unsure whether they had understood the instructions correctly. I asked her if she felt any strain. She said, "A little, it's heavier." "A little. 820 units." She said, "A little." I took a moment. I reviewed her intake form again, looking for the augmentation field. Blank. I checked the physical assessment notation, standard civilian. I looked at her standing in front of the Tier 3 block with her hands at her sides, slightly bored, holding the faint expression of someone waiting to be told whether they had passed. I moved to the third block. The third block is not a standard assessment tool. It lives in the back of the processing room, behind a partition, and I have used it exactly twice in my career. Once for a Javith heavy frame veteran I suspected of underreporting, and once as a calibration test when the equipment was new. It is rated at 2,200 Davith weight units. It is there because it has to be there, because the facility manual requires a maximum range instrument, but I have never used it on a civilian intake subject. I have never expected to. I moved the partition and pointed to the block. She looked at it. Then she looked at me. She said, "You want me to lift that one?" I said yes. She walked over to it. She looked at it, for a moment the way someone looks at a piece of furniture they are deciding whether to move. Then she crouched, adjusted her grip twice. The first time she could not find a clean hold and had to try a second position, and lifted. She got it to knee height before she stopped, reset her breathing, and then drove upward from the legs and brought it to full lift. It was not effortless. Her face changed. There was color in it, and the tendons in her forearms were visible, and I could see that she was working. She was standing. She was holding 2,200 David weight units in both hands, and she was standing upright. Feet were not moving. She held it for 4 seconds. Then her grip slipped from the right side. Not a failure, just a repositioning instinct. And she set it down with a controlled descent rather than a drop. She straightened up. She shook out her right hand. She looked at me and said, "Sorry. I lost the grip at the end. Do you need me to do it again?" I told her no. I told her to take a seat on the bench. I stood at the instrument panel, and I looked at the numbers. I looked at them for a long time. Then I looked at Calla Marsh sitting on the bench, her right shoulder, slowly, still slightly uncertain whether she had done the test correctly, still carrying the expression of someone who had not yet been told whether they had passed. I sent a secondary query to the Accord intake database. I requested every human labor assignment assessment filed from any processing facility in the last 14 years. Query returned 81 records. I sorted them by maximum lift achieved. Her result was not an outlier. It was not an anomaly. It was not, in any clinical sense, remarkable. Not within the set of human results I was now looking at. There were results above hers. There were results significantly above hers. There was one record from a facility in the Outer Kerith processing zone, a male human, 41 years, listed as a retired agricultural equipment mechanic, that had maxed out the instrument entirely. The equipment had reported the result as a sensor fault for 11 months before a technician confirmed the instrument was functioning correctly. None of the 81 subjects had augmentation records. None had combat histories. 3 had prior physical labor notations. The other 78 were clerical, administrative, or service sector. Calla Marsh was, by occupation and record, precisely as unremarkable as the intake form suggested. The numbers were not the problem of a specific human. They were the problem of humans. I closed the query, and I sat with it for a moment. I thought about the way she had lifted the first block. The way she had not braced, not prepared, not treated it as weight at all. The way she had said a little about the second one. The way she had looked at the third block the way a person looks at furniture. She didn't know. I want to be very precise about this too. She did not know what she had just done. She had no comparison. She had no frame in which to place the result. No awareness that the instrument she had nearly maxed out existed specifically for species whose structural physiology we consider heavy frame exceptional. She was sitting on the bench rolling her shoulder out, mildly concerned that she had let the grip slip, waiting politely to be told what came next. I filed the report that afternoon. I did not file it as a labor assignment record. I filed it as a compliance anomaly, the category we use when assessment instruments produce data that the standard interpretive framework cannot process. I attached all 81 historical records. I attached the sensor fault correction from the Outer Kerith facility. I attached a note recommending that the labor assignment assessment protocol be reviewed for adequacy of instrument range. The note was 3 sentences. The last sentence said, "The result logged today is the lowest human result in the 14-year database, and it belongs to a civilian freight coordinator with no physical notation of any kind. Lowest, not average, not median, lowest. I have thought about that word every day since. I do not know what Calla Marsh thought when she left processing Wing 7 that afternoon. I do not know if she ever considered the test again. I do not know if she went home. Wherever home was, whatever it meant, whatever world she had come from, and told anyone about the strange room with the heavy blocks and the alien officer who had made her wait on a bench for 40 minutes before letting her go. Probably not. Probably it was just a strange afternoon. Probably she was thinking about the duffel bag she had been told she could not bring in, and whether they would give it back. I have filed 342 labor assignment assessments. One of them I could not close with a simple number. I left it open. It is still open. I have not found the number to close it with.